Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today I have with us Steffany Boldrini. Steffany, would you mind telling us just a little bit about your story and what your personal ground zero was like and some of the skills and information that you learned along the way that have helped you to grow into the success that you have today?
Sure. I'm originally from Brazil and was blessed enough to come to the US when I was 18, 20 years ago. And I thank God every day that I'm here. My career started in sales actually by chance because I did not know what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine said, "You should come work where I'm working." And I said, "Okay." So I started in sales. And then jumped into trying to do my own startup, which was quite a ride for all the entrepreneurs that are out there. They know how life is, to do your own thing. And that was an incredible learning experience. I worked 24/7, literally for 3 years, Monday through Monday. And unfortunately, it did not work out, but learned a ton. And am a better founder today. After that, I joined another startup in the sales position. And after you do your own thing and you work for somebody else, that's so easy. It's like you have your nights off, you have your weekends. It's wow, and you get a paycheck. It's it's amazing. So I did really well there, thankfully, as well, because you have the entrepreneurial work ethic, I think. And then after that, I started doing real estate investing through the help of a friend of mine who was my mentor and taught me everything that I know about real estate investing. So that's the basic, very short story of my career so far. Is there anything in particular that I should dive into? You mentioned a couple of things, but if anything stood out, let me know.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing that I can tell is you just kind of had to pivot, multiple times, which, causes for some ups and downs. And I just kind of want to ask what was kind of going through your head during those times where you had to, you were in that job and then you shifted and you wanted to try and do your own startup. But then after that had, built up for so long, you were like, okay, sadly, this isn't going to work. And you had to shift again and you had to shift back to working with someone else. And you said there's pros and cons of that. But just kind of like what was going through your mind at those times? How are you kind of able to keep yourself going, kind of aside from the fact of just survival,
Yeah, that's a great question. It varied during the different shifts that I made, but a lot of times you're thinking, oh my gosh, all my friends are growing so much in their career, working for somebody else. And here I am trying to do the entrepreneurial thing and that didn't work. Now I need to start from zero. But thankfully, I did well with my startup, the company that I worked for in sales after my startup. I just didn't like working for other people. And I said, I just need to do this. And I'm going to do smarter and better because now I know so much more. So, just getting to build your network is incredibly important. And I do think that the sales job definitely helped because I follow up like crazy with everybody, whether it be purchasing a property or, potential investors or even people that say they're going to help with something they might forget. So literally just following up is so important and very few people do that. I'm still shocked of how many few people do not follow up, even if they're trying to sell something. You just learn as much as you can and try to get as much help as you can along the way because nobody gets there alone, as we all know. So make good friendships and hang out at the right places with the right people. Yes, sometimes that costs, more money, but who cares because it's the benefit of getting to know better people that are going to help you in the future and vice versa, of course.
Yeah, 100%. I know in my personal experience so far, it's been a little bit difficult to figure out ways to put myself in those rooms and in those conversations where I'm actually around like-minded people and around people that are talking about the things that I want to learn, I know that has been a big struggle for me so far, is just finding them. And that's where I think it's really important that you mentioned that, because that's one thing that, you know, being around people that are like-minded and, you know, thinking the things that you are is only going to elevate you. And it's just in a point that just being involved in those conversations, you can talk about the things that you're learning at the time, and in a way you can teach them whatever it is that you're studying, and that can help you develop a higher understanding of whatever that is, or you can learn new things from them, or just having that extra resource to continue talking about those things is going to elevate all of you. So, you know, having a community like that that's positive and that's like-minded is, you know, really beneficial. um, and I also really like the part that you know, obviously mentioned your mentor. I obviously cannot vouch enough for mentors. My personal mentor has taken me, you know, above and beyond. I wouldn't be doing this without him. But it's just that when you speak of that, what do you think what do you think the most valuable piece of advice you received from your mentor was as you were kind of going through your own journey there?
So this mentor was for real estate, and he said, you make money when you buy. So that was the most valuable piece of information that I learned from him. So
yeah,
as long as you
absolutely.
negotiate that price, if you can, you, especially right now, we can in some certain asset classes. So yeah, just gotta wait for the right time and make an offer that they're going to accept that will be beneficial to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and for any young real estate entrepreneurs listening out there, did you have any books or any podcasts that you were specifically plugged into when you first started to kind of make that change into real estate investing that really kind of helped you develop a deeper understanding of the subject?
Yeah, I signed up for a bunch of podcasts. The ones that come to mind are Joe Fairless podcast, Real Estate Goddesses podcast, and a few more in the asset class that I was focusing on, which was retail. And books, oh my gosh, there are so many. I'm just so bad with names, but I'm happy to send you all of the the links to the books. There's one in particular that it's my favorite. It has a lot of golden nuggets that I'll be more than happy to share with you. So you can put there the show notes for your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd really appreciate that. I know that books have personally helped me come a long way. It was really difficult, honestly, because I feel like coming out of high school, I hated reading. And I mean, and some of that is just because of the structure of public education now, I guess. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but they kind of make you read things that you're not interested in. So then you lose interest in reading because you don't care about the subjects that you're learning about. And I can honestly say that's exactly what happened for me, because I was reading all these stories that, while I do believe that there are valuable lessons in, that there was a point to us reading them, I still wasn't reading something that I was genuinely interested in. And I lost interest in reading because of it. And then it took me, you know, another, I don't know, another long period of time before I was able to come to find a new subject that I was interested in, that I wanted to read about, that I was, you know, energetic about actually diving into and taking in that information, to then to the point where I was like, holy crap, like, you know, books really are good sources of information and I need to get back into reading. And it really kind of took me a minute to build up that habit again, because I it'd taken, you know, however long through school to almost break that habit down. And then you have to rebuild it to, you know, come back to your roots in a sense. So yeah, books have definitely helped me, you know, a ton along the way. And yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get some of those links so I could throw them in the show notes for our listeners.
Yeah, and you know, thank God to technology also, because you can now read books by listening. So with Audible and podcasts and Clubhouse, there are so many resources out there, and you're not the only person that doesn't like reading. I know a few people that are actually successful that do not like reading, so you're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually glad you mentioned that. I know that with all the advancements in technology recently, in terms of audiobooks, ebooks, you know, all these new options that you have to take in information, or I mean, even just going to Google, YouTube, you know, all these other resources, even if you don't, well, it's honestly really strange, because some people will say like, oh, I don't like reading, but they sit on their phone and they read posts all day long.
So
Like,
true.
you know, while you're not reading a book, you are
Yeah.
reading. So it's like, you know, you just have to find the right thing that you're interested in. But same thing, just like you mentioned, if that's not your style, there are other options now that you can
Oh
explore,
yeah.
whether it be that you just want to plug your headphones in and listen to somebody else read it. You know, whatever way is best for you, then there's ways to do it now. And I, you know, highly encourage you to find out whatever that, you know, avenue is that works best for you. So
Yeah.
just going back to your story a little bit, I know we talked about you kind of having a couple failures along your way, along your journey. I just want to kind of zero in on those for a minute and just kind of ask what you think some of the really valuable lessons you learned from those were.
That is a very good question, Aaron. So for my startup, we were a marketplace similar to eBay or Amazon, where people would be able to sell their products, but these products were only focused on natural, organic, and non-toxic products. And the major mistakes we made, number one, was to open up from the beginning to every single category under the sun. And nobody will ever remember you for anything when you have everything available. So focus is so important, and it's so true that you have to focus and just do one thing and do it really well in the beginning. So we should have opened up to skincare products, for example, which was our best-selling category, and then opened later to other categories, similar to what Amazon did with books. Started with books and then open up to everything under the sun. Another mistake we made was to call ourselves eco-bold. And so what we later found out, when I learned that I had to interview people and find out if this would be valuable to them, 2 years into the startup, I learned that people cared mostly about their health first, and then being eco-friendly was just an added benefit. So by then it was a little too late to change the name and everything else. So that was another thing. So interview people, ask what their pain point is, what is important to them before you start building anything. And the last most important lesson that we learned was to charge a little bit more, make sure you can afford something. You know, when you're building a company, we were charging so little per transaction, only 7%. And that just did not make the cut to, you know, even raise funds later. So make sure you understand the financials, or, you know, later, even if you're going to give something for free, how are you going to monetize later in your startup journey? Those are the major lessons there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I definitely, I think I learned something from those right there. I mean, I've dealt with a little bit so far as in some ideas that I've had already, and conversations that I've had about them. A lot of the things that come up are, you know, what's your niche? Who are you shooting for? Who are you specifically trying to serve? And that's where, you know, like that first mistake that you talked about was about how you tried to open for everyone. And really, like in one of my ideas that I've had so far, that was what caused a lot of confusion between myself and the little focus group of people that we had working, was because we were trying to make it work for everyone, but the product wasn't designed for everyone. So we then had to, you know, kind of close off all of the expansion capabilities, you know, that big vision, and then kind of focus it back in on our original niche, and, you know, use that to figure out how we were going to tailor that product or service to that specific person. And then, like you said, once you get that going and where it's like actually running smoothly and successfully, then you can focus on expanding a little bit more. So that was definitely a good point as well. I know I had another point. I do this so much. I don't know, maybe it'll come back. So I guess that just kind of makes me wonder, you know, knowing what you do now, like if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself when you were running that startup, what do you think that you would tell yourself to, you know, maybe try to right that ship a little bit, and just to kind of segue off of that, if you were able to turn that around, do you think that's what you would still be doing today, or no?
I don't know if it would. Yeah, I just don't know. What I would have told myself would definitely be to focus on one category and really go deep there. that would be the one thing I would tell myself that could have potentially changed the course of things. But, you know, at the end of the day, at least where I live in, you know, Silicon Valley, even if you fail, you learn so much. So I wouldn't have changed anything, because when you do fail, you come out of it so much stronger. Your skin is this thick. Nobody can say or do anything to you that will harm you, like in your mind, that will make you upset. You learn so much about yourself, about how to deal with your co-founder and people, and you really build an incredibly thick skin and character. So I would not have changed, even if I knew it would have failed later after working so hard.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know that, you know, thick skin becomes really important, and I mean, it is still something that I'm working on. You know, I'm still new to all of this, but I do know it's something that I've been able to develop so far, at least, you know, in the failures that I've had so far. And I know that, you know, embracing your failures is really a huge point, but the biggest thing with that is you have to come into it with the right mindset, that even if this doesn't work, I'm going to take something from it. You have to be able to take something from every single, you know, opportunity, whether it goes good or whether it goes bad. You have to be able to take something away from it and say, you know, sit back and look at it and say, okay, this is what I learned. This is what went well. This is what didn't well. I mean, and maybe if you do succeed at whatever it was, there's still something that you could take away and say, okay, well, maybe I could have delivered on this better, or maybe I could have, you know, driven this point a little bit harder, you know, whatever that may be. There's always something that you can take away. And that's definitely something that I think we more people kind of need to pay attention to, and stop thinking of it as a failure. You know, yes, something went wrong. Yes, whatever it was didn't work out. But the word failure in itself, I mean, obviously, I don't know the definition off the top of my head, but it's just that it has like a negative impact. Like, as soon as you say failure, it makes you, like, your shoulders slump, everything drops. Whatever energy was there is taken away. I mean, and some of it, like, I mean, I know, like in school growing up and stuff, like in what, like, you can fail classes, you can fail at this, and like the letter F or whatever supposedly means fail. And, you know, so like we're kind of breeded with the sense that failure is a bad thing. But
Yeah.
It's really, and a lot of it, just approaching that, is just mindset. You just have to be able to come in saying, whether this works or whether it doesn't, I'm going to walk away stronger and better, because I know that I'm going to take something away from this, and then I'm going to then take whatever lesson I learned and put it into the next one, and next time we're going to come out and we're going to crush it.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. I agree 100%. And also, school doesn't teach you how to cooperate, right, with other people, which is actually the key to success. People are there on their own, studying their own, doing their own tests. You don't help one another. You don't help your colleagues in school. So yeah, you are correct. I do not miss school days. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of counting down the days until I don't have to worry about it anymore. We're actually in our last week of class right now, and I have finals next week. So, you know, I'm going to have my head in a book all weekend, but, you know, not looking forward to that. But
yeah, it'll be over soon.
then I have one more year. But yeah, I've never really been a school guy. I see the value in it, but I've just never really liked school. It's just kind of whatever at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of the success that you've built now, what do you think is something that you know, when you made that turn, what do you think is something that you started doing in, you know, maybe in terms of a habit, or, you know, whatever word you would use to describe it, but just, you know, that most people might not see? Like, what's something that you were doing every day, maybe behind the scenes, that you feel has kind of helped you, you know, grow into the success that you have now, that, you know, most people wouldn't know that you're doing?
I think, again, focusing is so important, especially nowadays that we have so many distractions. We can literally have 50 tabs open on our browser. So really just saying, okay, this year I'm going to buy XYZ, and this is really what I have to do, and let's really analyze all the properties that we can possibly analyze and figure out which one makes sense to make an offer on and take it from there. Also taking a look at your goals on a regular basis for the year, or whenever you set up your goals, but really go back to the goals and are you on track with what you said you were going to do that year? And if not, you need to really clean up what you're doing that is being a distraction, and go back to focusing. And also, we are all so busy, nowadays, that getting help is important. So you can start by having VAs in the Philippines, by paying $5 an hour to do things for you. You can really do so many things with that will help you focus on what the really big thing is. Someone once said for us to always think, what is the one thing that I can do today that could change everything? So try to remember this, and really, because we end up being so many little things, that we can really stop and say, what is the one action that I can take today that will make a huge difference on all of these things that I have to do today? That really helps.
100%. I actually really love that point. I'm actually really glad that you brought that up, because I know in my personal experience so far that, writing my goals and being familiar with what I was shooting for was definitely something that I had to kind of get clear on first. Because when you come up with those goals, when you're able to picture where you want to go, whether that be with your business, whether that be in your family life, wherever those goals may lie, it's just, once you're clear on that, that will help you envision the steps you need to take today to start moving towards those goals. So, if your goal is to, I don't know, in terms of like a family goal, if you want to get closer with, I don't know, your aunts and uncles, or something that maybe you don't speak to hardly ever, maybe start reaching out to them, maybe not like something completely overwhelming, like once a day, or, which really that's not a lot, but either way, not the point. If, maybe you start slow and say, maybe I want to hop on a call with them once a week and just stay in touch more, just something like that. Or like, if you have a business, maybe your goal is to make 2 more sales per day, on whatever your product or service may be. Just small little things that'll help you. Like, you have to realize that obviously time is a part of these too. And, like, while deadlines are important, you don't want to put yourself on too much of a time crunch. So what I mean by that is that, like, if you have a goal for your business to be making millions of dollars a year, and right now you don't have a business, then you can't expect that all to happen necessarily within the next 3 weeks. Like, things take time. So obviously, you have to kind of gauge that along the way. But yeah, so, I definitely appreciate the point about the goals. And I know that has been a big part for me so far, as I've been able to, find those small steps for me to take every day to help, continue that growth. But yeah, with that, I do think it is about time to start kind of closing it down. I've really enjoyed what we've talked about so far. And, just kind of thinking back on some of the points that we've had, is just definitely, don't be afraid to kind of put yourself out there to find more people that are on the same page as you. You can't necessarily, what's the word? I'm trying to think of the right word. You can't expect an exponential growth out of yourself in one category if you're kind of hanging around people that are dragging you down. You have to be in, and I know that, everybody has their group that they associate with and that they want to spend time with. But one of the biggest things that I've kind of had to come to terms with is that the group that I was hanging around with wasn't getting me anywhere. And while those are still my friends and I still care about them, you kind of have to make the sacrifice, if you will, to spend time with people that are going to elevate you and have conversations that are going to elevate you to the point where you want to be. And it comes down to a point like, is it more important for you to be hanging out with those friends, spending time doing whatever you're doing, or is it more important for you to achieve whatever those goals are that you laid out?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's okay to, not necessarily let people go. It's okay to let friends go for sure, but it's also okay to spend less time with them if it's not really aligned with where you're going. One thing I remember that I wanted to share when you asked about what would I do, with my younger self, what would I tell myself actually is I would have loved to have taken and known about the Landmark Forum course back then. It was completely life-changing for me. So I highly recommend anyone at any point in time to do that. It can clear so many things up for you and really have a clear path for you to go forward in life. It's something that was phenomenal in my life. And I took 3 years ago, but I would have loved to have taken it in my 20s. So just wanted to drop that up there.
Yeah, 100%. Can you just repeat what it was one more time for us?
Landmark Forum.
Okay.
It's self-improvement type of thing.
And okay.
One of the best that I have taken.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll throw that in the show notes for everybody who's interested. We'll see. We'll see what comes of it. Maybe it's something that I'll look into. I just, thank you again for that, and thank you for all the little nuggets that you've shared today. I feel like that I personally got a lot of value out of it, and I hope that all the listeners do as well. Do you have any more closing thoughts before we close it down?
No, kudos to you for doing this. At the end of the day, you're at the very least meeting so many people out there, growing your network. So this is awesome, and I'm sure you and your listeners, whoever is listening, will be very fine in their career.
Absolutely. I sure hope so. So with that, everybody, always remember, this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero, and there's nowhere to go from here but up.